We are living through one of the most extraordinary moments in the history of psychedelic science. Over the last 2 decades, research has expanded at a remarkable pace, and clinical trials have been some promising results for conditions that have been challenged conventional approaches. Universities have established research centers, and governments are reconsidering policy. Healthcare systems are beginning to explore new possibilities. At the same time, indigenous peoples and traditional medicine systems continue to remind us that many of these medicines have been held with sophisticated cultural and ceremonial contexts for generations. Today, these worlds are beginning to meet. Science is advancing, traditional knowledge is being recognized, and public interest is growing. Yet, I believe we are overlooking one of the most important questions of all. Not whether psychedelics can shift consciousness, but whether we truly understand what allows those experiences to become lasting transformation. For years, much of the conversation has focused on the experience itself, the breakthrough, the ceremony, the mystical insight, the neurobiology, the clinical outcome. These are all important, but purpose they are not enough because many people have profound experiences and still they find themselves struggling months later with the same relationship, the same patterns, the same trauma, the same fear, the same character, the same decisions, the same questions about meaning. Others describe one extraordinary weekend followed by months of confusion. Some feel deeply connected during the experience, only to feel profoundly isolated afterwards. So perhaps the question is no longer, do psychedelics work? Perhaps the most interesting question would be, what helps human beings transform an extraordinary experience into an extraordinary way of living? This, I believe, is the real frontier, not the peak, what comes beyond the peak, because insight is not the same as integration. An insight can arrive in a single moment. Integration unfolds over months, sometimes years. It asks different questions. How do our relationships change? How do our values evolve? How do our everyday choices begin to reflect what we have understood? And how do we elevate the quality of our lives? These questions cannot be answered by the experience alone, and they require something else. They require integration, not as a simple final stage of a psychedelic journey, integration as a journey. After supporting and accompanying thousands of people for the last 15 years in over 30 countries, people of all ages, economic status, belief systems, cultural standards, a realization arrived, and it's what if one of the greatest challenges is not the people lack insight, but that we continue interpreting those insights through inherited ways of seeing the world. Throughout our lives, we inherit ideas about success, about healing, identity, authority, what it means to be well, what it means to belong. Most of these assumptions remain invisible until something profound allows us to see them. Psychedelic experiences often create their opportunity, and we feel it. For some time, we see beyond what happened and our interpretations of what happened. That's why psychedelic experiences can become, without awareness, ways to evade daily life because recognizing an inherited story is not the same as becoming free from it. That is why I introduced the idea of cognitive decolonization, not as a political slogan, not as an ideology, but as an ongoing development opportunity that the psychedelic experience offers. The willingness to question the mental models through which we interpret ourselves, others, and reality. The willingness to remain curious and to recognize that transformation is not simply acquiring new beliefs, sometimes it's remembering that there are infinite doors of perception. To replace certainty with inquiry, to replace rigid identities with deeper participation in life. This is not only an individual process. Human beings are relational. We became who we are through relationships with family, with community, with environment, with nature, with culture, with the more than human world. Integration, therefore, cannot be reduced to biology alone, not psychology alone, or not spirituality alone. It unfolds across many dimensions of life. This is why I believe the psychedelic field now stands at the most important threshold. The psychedelic renaissance has brought extraordinary attention to the medicine. The next renaissance may need to focus on integration, on professional standards, on ethics, on education, on interdisciplinary dialogue, and alliances between science and indigenous tribes, on learning from both contemporary research, ancestral knowledge systems with humbleness, humility, and respect. not by romanticizing either, but by recognizing that each offers perspective that can enrich our understanding. If the first chapter of psychedelic renaissance asks, can these medicines help? Prefer the next chapter asks, how do we accompany human evolution wisely? How do we support healing trauma? How can we transcend social normalizations that cause the trauma? And how can we embody regenerative lifestyles coherent with the shift of paradigm we experience through psychedelic experiences? And that question belongs not only to therapists or coaches or facilitators or shamans. It belongs to researchers, educators, healthcare professionals, community leaders, and to every person who cares about how profound experiences become meaningful lives. Because ultimately, the measure of psychedelic experience is not what happens during the ceremony or the session. It is how we participate in life before, during, and afterwards, how we take care of ourselves, how we relate, how we care for one another, how we contribute to our communities, and how we respond to our authenticity, how we embody wisdom in ordinary moments. The future of psychedelic integration is not about helping people return to who they were. It's about helping people participate more consciously, more ethically, and more responsibly in regenerative, respectful, and coherent living systems. That to me is what lies beyond the peak. If these questions resonate with you, with your own professional journey, they form the foundation of the Psychedelic Integrative Mentor training and certification. Over the coming months, we'll explore in depth through dialogue, reflective practice, contemporary research, ancestral wisdom, and interdisciplinary learning. I will be delighted to welcome those who feel called to contribute to the future of the psychedelic integration.